to the child poverty report. How confronting do you find those statistics, and what are you planning to do about them?
Oh, well, look, what it does show is that, pre the COVID environment, broadly we were on track and making good progress on our child poverty targets. Obviously, COVID has vastly changed the economic environment we're in. It's why we moved immediately for support on those lowest income areas and on jobs, but we do need to make sure we're protecting the vulnerable in this environment.
Has New Zealand compromised its relationship with China by its statement of concern the day before yesterday?
No, I don't believe so. And I think, in this mature relationship we have with China, they expect New Zealand to raise concerns when we see them. We've done that. I think we've made the point we wanted to make, and we'll be leaving it at just
China's saying today that China's saying overnight that New Zealand's position shows that it has sided with Australia instead of China. So they are seeing it as New Zealand taking sides?
We certainly don't see it that way. If we saw, a visual representation published by Australia that was incorrect, that was a doctored image, for instance, we would raise that concern also. For us, it was a matter of principle. We've raised that concern. Now that we've done that, that's the matter as far as we're concerned.
Why not then call out Australia as an edge war crimes?
Oh, and look, China is well within its rights to do that, as would any nation be if they had concerns around the behaviour of a country in a theatre of war. From our perspective, we're already seeing Australia taking action on that and responding to it.
Should New Zealand exporters be worried about this kind of rising tension between New Zealand and China?
No, and I wouldn't articulate it in that way. There are always in our relationship been issues that from time to time we will raise in the way that New Zealand does, directly with China and Chinese officials, but we'll always do it from a principle perspective. We've said our bit, and we'll be leaving it at that.
Prime Minister, the income tax changes you're passing into law this week. The Gini coefficient, which is the way we measure inequality, the official advice on it says that it will only move 0.2%. Is that really worth doing if you're having such a small bump on inequality?
Yes, it is worth doing, and of course the things that we need to do in this environment, are around what we're seeing in the top 2%. We're asking for that extra support to be able to make sure we maintain health and education services. What we equally do to get people, for instance, who are contractors onto a living wage, to lift the minimum wage, also making a difference at the other end of the income scale.
Now and not a year ago when other countries were.
Oh, look, and of course you will have seen in Parliament, we did have a motion put before the last Parliament. Unfortunately, the National Party didn't support that. It was voted down. This is the first opportunity we have as a new government to declare climate change an emergency, a view that we've long held, but it does, of course, need to be backed by action, which is what we're announcing more of today.
Prime Minister, you're declaring the climate change emergency. Why not the child poverty emergency?
Oh, and look, we, as you will have seen from the speech from the throne, have said alongside protecting people's health in this COVID crisis, our economic recovery, housing, child poverty and climate change, we've also called our 3 priority areas. So you'll see that emphasis from us. The climate change emergency, of course, though, has almost an akin to a civil defence effect on our nation. Erosion, the loss of infrastructure, threats to people's housing, significant weather events. So that kind of effect and impact on New Zealand, we believe, warrants the kind of expedient response of an emergency declared in the House.
I'm really sorry. What do you say to the members? Why not declare a child poverty emergency?
Oh, you will have seen that as a government, our priority areas are child poverty, housing, climate change. But with climate change, we are seeing the kinds of impacts that are almost akin to a civil defence emergency. So we are treating it as urgent, but equally, so is housing and child poverty.
Getting in the House, but